From the dawn of the 23rd of September to the 25th of September, 2025, blaring emergency bells across Beijing and surrounding mountain villages began a relentless, roaring chant warning evacuation chaos. Across the capital and its mountainous outskirts, alarms shrieked continuously, setting a frantic tone. The city's flood sirens joined the cacophony, an unbroken, deafening chorus urging citizens from urban districts to highland hamlets, evacuate now or face total inundation. The voice of authority, metallic, urgent, and merciless, bled into every street, every alley, every mountainside, making the order unmistakable. In the western and northern mountain districts, notably Manugu, Fangshan, Hao, Chongping, and Mune, rivers turned into explosive torrents. Streams that once trickled through gorges swelled into beasts of liquid rage. Bridges snapped almost instantly under raging floodwaters. Entire spans collapsed, plunging into muddy depths. Long-standing stone and steel structures were torn apart, as if centuries of human engineering were mere toys before the power of the unleashed storm. In the highland villages, entire homes perched on hillsides vanished, washed clean from their foundations by powerful mud flows and flash floods. The very soil betrayed the families who lived upon it, sliding and dissolving into dark, crushing waves. Roads carved into slopes were shattered. Tarmac peeled away like paper under a violent hand. Landslides triggered by saturated soil obliterated roadways linking rural hamlets to the city. In many areas, cars and trucks were submerged, floated away, or wedged under rubble. Images from Moon and Manugu showed vehicles half sunken in churning brown waters. Some overturned, others piled on top of one another in grotesque debris jams. Familiar highways became graveyards of machinery, mute witnesses to the speed and force of destruction. Across the sprawling rural hills, more than 242 bridges were damaged or destroyed, and over 24,000 homes lay in ruins. According to preliminary reports from the city's deputy mayor, despite uncertainty about human loss, authorities have evacuated more than 1 million residents. Numbers too large to imagine became reality. Entire neighborhoods emptied, entire mountain chains stripped of habitation. The sound of helicopters overhead became the new rhythm of survival, blades chopping through humid, rain-choked skies, their cargo not wealth or commerce, but human lives. A staggering mass movement representing a crisis of unprecedented proportions for Beijing. From bustling urban blocks to remote mountain villages, families were moved en masse ahead of cresting floodwaters. In districts such as Manugu, Fangan, Chongping, and Hiru, emergency teams moved quickly to ferry villagers out of hazard zones. Children clutched plastic bags filled with a few clothes. The elderly held tight to family photos wrapped in cloth. Men carried whatever food supplies they could salvage, while mothers guided trembling hands of the very young. Some carried their entire existence in a backpack, others with nothing but soaked shoes on their feet. Major evacuation routes clogged with refugee convoys, buses, trucks, and private cars jammed along flooded thoroughfares, headlights gleaming in the torrential rain, endless lines of red taillights dissolving into watery mist. Temporary shelters were established in stadiums, schools, and municipal halls, now emptied of daily life. Where once cheers, chalk dust, and morning lessons reigned, now cots lined the floors, tarpaulins stretched between walls, and volunteers handed out hot noodles and water bottles. The sound of crying children echoed in the places once built for games, while teachers became organizers, doctors, or comforters of strangers. Mass relocation was key to averting confirmed fatalities, but the toll in psychological trauma and infrastructure loss is immense. Mountain torrents triggered widespread landslides and mudslides. The topography that makes Beijing a rain trap intensified the effects. The mountains surrounding the northern rim of the city, usually a protective barrier, had turned into funnels, channeling heaven's fury. Every drop of moisture rolling off the high ranges funneled into narrow gorges and creeks, swelling them with destructive power. Torrents roared down hillsides, carving channels where none existed, ripping out trees and foundations. Electricity cuts and communication failures plagued remote settlements. Villagers clung to battery-powered radios, searching for faint signals of instructions, voices crackling through static, the last lifelines to the outside world. In many mountainous zones, entire villages were cut off. Power lines torn down, bridges gone, roads gone. Emergency response in those regions hinged on helicopters and makeshift rescue teams plunging on foot through quagmires. Soldiers waded waist-deep in waters carrying ropes and food packs, forming human chains to pull the weak across submerged paths. Dogs barked desperately as rescuers passed collapsed homes where families once sat. Time became elastic, stretching into endless days of waiting under rain, waiting for a helicopter's shadow or the sudden roar of an approaching rescue engine. But the relentless storm forecast, heavy rainfall possibly continuing through the second half of the week, keeps the crisis in a state of ongoing emergency. Authorities warned that further evacuations may be needed, especially in vulnerable mountain zones, unless the skies suddenly relent. Meteorologists spoke of stalled monsoonal patterns, of an atmosphere unwilling to release Beijing from its grasp, of clouds looping over the capital like chains. What began as a violent cascade of warning bells on the 23rd of September had become a full-scale hydrological nightmare by the 25th of September. Floodwaters carved disaster through Beijing's mountain districts and urban fringes alike. 1 million people fled rising torrents, yet devastation continued, dismantling bridges, smashing homes, drowning vehicles, and tearing transportation lifelines apart. Hospitals in low-lying districts scrambled to move patients upstairs, pumping machines humming in strained defiance of encroaching water. Subways filled like underground reservoirs, tracks disappearing into opaque brown pools. Farmers in outskirts saw months of crops erased in a single night. Grain silos toppled. Pigs, chickens, and cattle floated lifeless in submerged barns. The city's arteries of food and transport suffered gashes that may take years to mend. The crisis continues with torrential rain forecast to intensify rather than abate, leaving the city and its highland hinterlands teetering on the edge of even deeper calamity. Families now living in shelters whisper at night about whether their homes remain standing. Children ask if their schools survived. Parents avoid answers, holding them close, praying silently. For the elderly who remember floods of earlier decades, this storm feels like something beyond memory, beyond record, beyond expectation. Fear spreads alongside rain. With water supplies contaminated by overflowed sewage, hospitals brace for outbreaks of waterborne disease. Volunteers struggle to distribute bottled water, but demand far exceeds stockpiles. Trucks carrying supplies slog through knee-deep mud or reroute across mountain paths, often arriving days late. Inside Beijing proper, supermarkets are stripped bare of rice, instant noodles, and batteries. Queues form outside ration centers as residents grow restless. Rumors spread on social media of levees breaking, of dams straining, of skies refusing to clear. Panic flares and then dies, replaced by grim patience. And yet, amid the chaos, countless stories of survival and solidarity emerge. A young man in Fangshan ties ropes to a rooftop antenna and ferries neighbors across a flooded alley trip after trip. A grandmother in Muni insists on feeding the rescuers who carried her from her collapsing house, offering them the last dumplings she managed to save. Volunteers from universities in the city travel to stadium shelters, setting up play corners for children, reading them stories under dim emergency lights. Rescue dogs paw through rubble, their handlers guiding them silently as they sniff for survivors. Meanwhile, across global news channels, images of Beijing underwater spread shockwaves. International leaders send condolences while offers of aid trickle in. Satellites capture the swollen rivers, carving brown scars across green mountainsides, transmitting images that appear almost unreal. The world watches as a capital of 20 million trembles on fragile ground, its urban heart beating slowly under siege of nature. And still the rain falls. It pelts down on broken highways, on hollowed homes, on endless tarpaulin shelters. It slides from the leaves of uprooted trees into the muddy ground, refusing to release Beijing from its drowning. Authorities release updates, reservoirs on the brink, landslides imminent in new zones, aftershocks of disaster certain. Helicopters fly longer hours, drones scout inaccessible valleys, soldiers slog deeper into ruined terrain. At night, lightning forks across the black sky, illuminating drowned neighborhoods in flashes of silver white. The human cost, though not yet fully known, grows heavier with each hour. Families separated in evacuations cling to posted lists of names in shelters, scanning for loved ones. Pets roam lost among strangers, barking into wet nights. Farmers sit on what little high ground remains, staring at submerged fields that once guaranteed their year's income. City dwellers, now refugees within their own metropolis, wait anxiously for word that the worst has passed. But forecasts bring no comfort. Instead, more warnings, more rain, more vigilance. As Beijing stands today, September 25th, 2025, it stands not as the polished capital of rapid trains, rising towers, and bustling avenues, but as a city humbled by water, trapped under skies that refuse to clear. Roads collapsed, millions trapped indoors, lives uprooted and remade in the span of 3 days. The storm has not ended. The bells of warning may have faded into background, but their echo remains in every dripping shelter, in every mud-caked boot, in every eye that looks upward at the clouds and silently pleads for mercy. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps this channel going. Hit the bell so you never miss a real, calm, and clear report. Note, some footage in this video may be used for illustration and may not show the exact event described. See you in the next one. Stay informed, stay safe,